Hi, we're back with another webisode around Created for Community. That's been such an amazing topic that we've been exploring over the last month, and it's been such a blessing as we proceed each week, unfolding new facets, a bit like the petals of a rose, and as you open up, the fragrance just gets stronger and stronger. And today we're going to be looking into, dissecting and exploring further into the message from Sunday that Pastor Fitret brought, Celebrate, See and Surround Them. So that was just an amazing time that we had there on Sunday, and today as we begin to open it up and look at those three, there's three main aspects of it, but we'll open it up and from the Word of God and through personal life experience, and we just pray that today this blesses you and changes your life, your whole aspect of how you see things and even how you see God. Fitret, what really stood out to you that you went that particular direction for that message?
One of the things that I really sort of got out of it, it's from verse 20. He says, when he saw him from afar, from a distance, when the father, it says the son was a great way off and the father saw him. And it says he had compassion on him, and it says he ran and he fell on his neck and kissed him. So for me, I think what's really important about that is that probably the son, when you think about that story, you've got to try and picture him. He left full and he came back empty. So when he went away, he had lots of money. Says he spent it on riotous living, and he was probably paying for everybody's drinks, and we know people like that, that have money and they just go and pay for everybody's drinks, and then they got nothing left but...
Barry did it, he said once, drinks were on the house, but he made sure that there was only one person there, this before he was a Christian.
Barry,
yeah.
Barry.
He said the drinks are on the house, but he checked out the numbers first. Well, this guy, I think, did the same.
He would have
drinks
had
on
lots
the house.
of money. So when he left, he wanted his inheritance, and he said, give me what's mine, which it wasn't really normal in that culture to give before, the father passed away. But the father gave the two sons their inheritance. And this son went away and he thought, wow, this is really good. I've got lots of money. I'm going to do what I want to do. He thought he knew how to do everything in life. But what drove him back was want. He was in want. He'd wasted all his money, and now he's feeding pigs on a farm, and he's starting to think about home and thinking about how good home is and how, he said, even my father's servants are fed better than I'm fed. So it was want that drew him back. Like he was in want that drew him back home. So when I picture him coming home, I kind of picture him, he was probably walking really slow and thinking, is my father going to accept me? Or is he going to tell me, get out, you shame me, you've shamed the family, don't want to know you, don't want nothing to do with you, as far as I'm concerned, you're dead. But that wasn't the case with this father.
I think when you carry shame and you got to go back somewhere like that, I think
hard.
Your feet would be shuffling and dragging. Your posture would be shoulders drooped, head down, because in your head there's a video playing of what they're going to do to me, what's going to happen. I have messed up really bad. And maybe, today, the reality is that we've all messed up really bad, some more than others. And maybe you've made a mess of everything in your life and you actually have no idea what to do about it. But I want to say to you today that there is a loving Father who loves you more than actually you know. And even a lot of churches or ministers or Christians even know, because a lot of places, people like that may be frowned on. And it's actually God saying, I'll take you just as you are.
Yeah.
As long as you come to the Father, come. So I see this young man, dragging his feet, shuffling a bit of dust. Yeah. Maybe he didn't even have shoes on.
Maybe he even might have thought, I'm not going to go. Maybe he turned back and then he turned again. Who knows? He
might have even paused on the road looking, where am I going to go? I know where the road leads to the house, but the house is like a dot in the distance.
Yeah.
But somewhere, I think the beauty of the story, when he was still a great way off,
the Father saw him.
How did the Father see him first? Because there's a whole thing we'll talk about first. But how did he actually see him first? Like, I picture it personally as a dot on the horizon, and yet somehow he knew. Somewhere, I think the life of the Father was a prayerful life. He actually said, bless my journey, bless me as I go, but if you don't, I'm going to leave anyway. And but the Father blessed him, and in the blessing, he released him into God's hands, not into the world, not to the devil, but he released his son into God's hands so that God would bring him to the end of himself. And when he got to the end of himself, he'd bring him back to the Father. So the Father didn't just bless him and say, go and do what you want. The Father was in faith, believing that his son would come home.
So I spoke about the Father, like when he was, it says, when he was still a great way off, his Father saw him. You know what the Father saw? The Father saw his condition. The Father would have seen poverty on his son. He would have seen shame on his son. He would have seen humility and brokenness. All of those things that he carried. Like when he went out, he was full of pride, and I've got lots of money, and I'm going out, I've got everything. I'm going to go spend all my money on designer clothes and shoes and
top
everything. Yeah. And but when he came home, I believe that when it says, and the Father saw him, as parents, we kind of know when something's wrong with our kids. That's just intuition. Like many mothers have said times when they've known their children aren't, something's going on and you feel it inside of you. That's just something God's put inside of us as mums, and we tend to be 99 out of 100% right when you feel something's not right. I've talked to many mums and they've spoken of times when they felt something wasn't right. But I believe that this Father, because I spoke about the all-seeing one and how he sees and he looks on us. And it says in Proverbs 15:3 that his eyes are in every place and he sees the evil and the good. So he's the all-seeing one. El Roi, that's the Hebrew name for God. El Roi, the all-seeing one. So when he saw him, he saw shame. He saw confusion. He saw doubt on his life. He saw unbelief. He saw all those things that he came back a different person. And it says, and he had compassion on him. And I always have a saying that I've used for many years: compassion moves to action. So this was a father that moved to act upon what he believed, that the kind of father that he was. And he was a father that, and I believe what this father was saying, what Jesus was saying to the people was, when you look at Luke chapter 15, it talks about, where the Pharisees couldn't handle that Jesus ate with publicans and sinners. They could not handle that. This whole story is about a father who receives the lost sinners, the ones that have gone away, that have walked away, and they're coming back. That's what he was telling them. He was getting through to them because he talked about the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son. In every one of those stories, I spoke on Sunday, that everyone, when they are found, they celebrate. They call the neighbours and they rejoice and celebrate. So I think that's really
something powerful.
That's beautiful, yeah.
I think the difference between, you can have sympathy. Sympathy never achieves anything. You just feel sorry for people. But compassion says, I feel sorry, but I'm going to be part of the answer to fix the thing I actually am grieved about. So sympathy, many people have sympathy, many people feel the emotions but have no desire to be involved as part of the answer. Compassion says, I feel sorry, but I'm going to be part of the answer to this problem. And the Father, he could have said, look, anybody else can deal with this because I gave him what he wanted, and that's the way it is, and I feel sorry for him, but he got what he deserved. He could have done, but no, he didn't. He assessed the son as in a bad place. He had compassion on him. He felt the sorrow in his heart, but he actually said, I'm going to be the answer to the problem. And my son will be restored. My son, he says it later, was dead and is now alive. And
he's
so,
lost and now he's found.
Yeah.
So it's about being dead and then being alive, and then it's about being lost and found. So we've got to remember that, don't we, with people, when we're dealing with people. But then I love in that story where I spoke about he surrounds, and it's a beautiful picture of how the father ran to the son when he saw him. So I spoke on Sunday about how if it was, he ran because he didn't want the community to get to the son first. And part of their culture was they would go and they would basically tell him, you have no part of this community. And this month we're talking about created for community, and one of your words was being integrated, not isolated. So the father's heart was, I'm integrating my son back into community. Like the people that were there, and especially the oldest son, he didn't want to know him. But the father was integrating him by running. He's saying, I'm bringing you back into community. I'm going to integrate you back into this family, back into this community. You're accepted. I'm surrounding you. I spoke about he encircled him. Like he encircled him, and he basically, people could have been watching too, and he didn't like kiss him, normal on the cheeks or whatever. He kissed him on the neck, which like to me says a lot more. He was basically saying, I miss you. I'm really glad that you are home. And people would have watched the father doing that and probably thought, wow, this is like something to be, wow, if the father can accept him, why can't we accept him? So I believe that's how he integrated his son back into that community.
I think maybe the contrast to the son is shuffling his feet. He's very slowly heading towards the family home. But from a long way off, the contrast is he's going slow and the
father's running.
The father's running. Now, I don't know how old the father was, but if he was of some age, it would have been a bit of an effort to run that distance.
Not if you're Barry.
Like a couple
Barry'd be running.
It could be a couple of kilometres he had to run
and
get there before the rest. Would have been a distance, because he said when he was a long way off.
Yeah.
When he was still a great way off. Means a long way off. He barely made him out on the horizon, but he ran and ran and ran and ran, and no one else could get there first. He got there first and loved him and encircled him and kissed him, as you said, on the neck.
Yeah.
And that is the heart of God. Some people don't understand the heart of God. They think God is a judge sitting with a stick or a hammer ready to bash people. That's a lie of the devil. The devil loves to create lies about the character and the nature of God.
Yeah.
But he's actually, this message is talking to lots of people. If you're a Christian and if you've got a religious spirit, you won't want to see these kind of people coming into your church. But if you've got the heart of the Father as a Christian, you'll want them coming in. On the other side, we're speaking also to people who have gone a long way off, made a mess of their lives, and you need to know that no matter what people say or do, God the Father is beckoning you to come back to Him, and because He's a loving Father, and He will run to you. If you shuffle towards Him in your inability and incapacity, He's going to run towards you. You might shuffle along, but He's going to run towards you, and He's going to encircle you with His arms, hug you and hold you, and kiss you on your neck and love you so much, and so much of the good things that He brought to him, and clothed him with a robe and a ring on his finger and shoes on his feet, killed a fatted calf. I mean, He was celebrating, and we're going to come to celebrating in a little while.
Yeah, so He covered him with, He said to the servants, bring the best robe. In the condition that the son was, they could have said, well, just get something, anything old, something that we can just at least cover him. But no, the father said, bring the best robe, put it on my son, get sandals for his feet and a ring on his finger. So that represents a lot. That represents that acceptance, forgiveness, love, that's what the father was showing to the son. And I think it's a beautiful picture of what God the Father is like and how we should be as well. When we see those prodigals, that we should be running like the Father too, like not thinking, oh, and I think I spoke that day on Sunday, not I think I did, I spoke about when the Father saw him. There was a little saying I wrote in my journal a few weeks ago. When we look at people, it's easy to see dirt. Human nature sees, oh, they've been away from God for years, they've been living an immoral lifestyle. It's easy to see the dirt. But this father didn't see the dirt, he saw the gold in the son. So I know somebody I spoke to on Sunday, Leanne, and she was saying how that really touched her, about how we can, see the gold in people, not see the dirt. Because it's easy, human nature will so easily pick the dirt, but we got to see the gold, and that takes humility on our part to actually see that in people. And if we're like the Father, we'll have compassion on them, and we'll move to action on those kind of people.
I think it's been said that, a teacher once did an experiment with his class, and there was a big whiteboard, and he got a black marker pen and put a dot in the middle, and he put the pen away and sat down, and he asked the class, he said, I want you to describe to me what you see.
Yeah.
And he said, not straight away, I want you to think, I want you to look. And he gave them time to absorb the lesson. And without exception, they all said, we see the black dot. And in the end, the lesson was, how is it you never saw the white board?
They all focused on the
99.9% of the surface was white. Why did you... And humanity, unfortunately, focuses on that dot in your life, the speck, the sin you may have committed, and they'll focus on that and they'll forget the good stuff in your life. But God doesn't. God focuses on you, and he says, come on, I'll bring you in.
So such a good parable. And I also spoke in that on Sunday about the story about another father who had a son, and this son committed a crime, and he went to jail, paid the time, and before he came out, he wrote a letter to his father, and he said, I'm really sorry for everything I've done. I'm coming home, but when I come home, if you accept me, if you accept me as a son, put a yellow ribbon round the tree. And he caught a bus, and as he was coming closer to that, to his home, to his parents' home, his heart was like pounding inside, and he told the bus driver what had happened, and he said to the bus driver, look, I can't actually look because I don't know if I'm going to be accepted, if my parents are going to forgive me for what I've done and accept me back as a son, but could you please, when we drive to the house, and if you see a ribbon around the tree, let me know, because then I can get off the bus. But if you don't see a ribbon on the tree, that means that I've got to keep going, and wherever the bus was going to take him. But
anyway,
as he approached, he actually had his eyes closed and waiting. Can you imagine inside his heart? His heart would have been beating really fast. And the bus driver called out to him and said, there's not one yellow ribbon, but there's hundreds of yellow ribbons around the tree. And I think that's a beautiful story that matches this parable, because that father of that son accepted his son back by putting all those yellow ribbons around the tree. It just fits perfectly, doesn't it, with this same parable? Yeah,
it's identical. The sense of rejection versus acceptance, love, forgiveness, and acceptance is everything. To be loved, to be forgiven, and to be accepted. And he needed all three of those things. And the story is very similar to this one in the Bible. But that man, put 100 yellow ribbons around the tree.
Yeah.
Meaning yes, 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 like 100. Yes, 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 yes. I'm so happy. Yes, I accept you. Yes, I forgive you. Yes, I love you. So come on home. What a beautiful story.
Such a good story.
Yeah.
There's a song that goes with it too. They sang and they use it. They tie yellow ribbons, especially in the States, America. they actually, when the servicemen come home, all the houses put yellow ribbons to celebrate them coming home and what they've done, their return. So it's really beautiful. Maybe you need to tie some yellow ribbons around your tree. So, yeah, especially if you like yellow. I know some people that love the colour yellow. But we also looked at celebration and, wow, did this father know how to celebrate? He didn't tell the son, get back to work. Some parents would be going, you've been away this long, you haven't been working, your brother's been out there working hard, and look at you, you've been wasting money and doing all the wrong things, get back and start working. No, as soon as the son come home, he called a party and told the servants, we talked about it before, get the best robe, get the a ring on his hand and sandals for his feet, dress him up, and then kill the best grain-fed calf that we have on the property, and we're going to make merry and be glad because this son has come home. So we had a big party once, didn't we, at when we were living at Walkham, and maybe we'll...
Yeah. We've had probably a lot of parties over the years, but this one, it stands out in our minds on our Walkham farm on Sir Henry Adem Drive, up near the Jump Up area, for those who are familiar with that. We had a large property there, and we put on a party. It was a dress-up party. We told everybody, if you're coming, you've got to dress up as... and so Fitret dressed up as a nun, and I dressed up as a caveman. And
they go together, don't they?
They go really well together. And a lot of people turned up dressed in various ways, but the one thing that I remember really clearly was I'd pushed down a lot of timber and dry timber, and I piled it up really high, probably 4 or 5 metres high, pushed up logs a couple of days before, huge, lit it up, and let it burn down to a large bed, quite deep, hot coals, probably half a metre or so deep with hot coals. So you can imagine how hot that was. And so burn it down in readiness for this party and the barbecue that night. And we had a shaft with an electric motor. We'd bought a whole lamb. We'd bought half a dozen chickens and put them on this shaft, probably a metre or so above the hot coals, and the heat coming off that. And as this slowly turned, we probably saw, over 100 people, I think, turned up that particular night. And the meat was just, turning slowly. And as it was cooking from the heat off those coals, the fat, whether it's chicken or lamb fat, was dripping into the hot coals, and it was like explosions of aroma. As it hit the hot coals, it would just explode, and the smell was unbelievable.
Is beautiful.
And we just had a really, really good time, but a funny time as well. And we were just celebrating life, and we were enjoying having fellowship. We wanted people around us. And so we did quite a bit of that.
It was fun. And I remember the afternoon everybody came over. Yeah, like you said, it was over 100 people there. And one of the funny things I remember is we had games and that, and what we did, we cut up sponge, mattress, what do you call that? Foam, yeah, we cut that up into lamington sizes, and the game was to see who could eat the most lamingtons. So some of us women got that foam and we coated them in chocolate icing, and we rolled them in coconut, and that was the prize. So people looked at this, oh wow, lamingtons, we're gonna oh God, that looks nice. So anyway, when the thing was over, the team that won that game, they began eating the lamingtons, and they were trying to they were pulling at the foam what's wrong with this? But we had such a great time. It was so good. And you know what? You always remember fun and celebration, don't you? And I spoke on Sunday about something God gave me just this month was celebration is the centerpiece of circles. And in our circles, which are our groups where we meet during the week, where we come around and we see each other, we get to know each other really well. It's a place to celebrate one another as well. And I think that's really important in circles, when it's somebody's birthday, when it's their anniversary, or if they've achieved something, you celebrate them. And it makes people feel really special, doesn't it, when you celebrate?
Yeah. Look, celebration means that you actually actively prepare to have some fun.
Yeah.
But it's not just fun. Some of it's to do with worshipping of God, but it's about being happy. Ultimately, the Hebrew culture, God gave them feasts, and the feasts were spread out throughout the year, and they were meant to celebrate by eating and drinking, singing, playing music and dancing.
Yeah, all together.
And some of those celebrations went on for a week. And God wanted them, sure, work is an ethic, but God says, now stop, and now it's time to celebrate. And so, a lot of Christians, sometimes I use this term, but you may find it funny, you may not. But I think, when Christians look like they've been baptized in lemon juice, it's really sad, because it's actually not the kingdom. To solemnity. Some people live in solemnity. Well, I'm going to tell you, there is times for solemnity, being serious. There are serious things in the kingdom of God. But that is not every day, every minute, forever. The majority of the time is we should be happy and not just laughing, but enjoying life. I always say to our staff, enjoy the journey. And it takes a bit of effort to enjoy the journey, because the journey is something that you're on actively every day, but pursue God, and as you pursue God, it's celebrating, it's being happy, it's enjoying life. So Christians, first of all, I'm speaking to you, make sure you enjoy the journey. Don't just be the serious baptized in lemon juice kind of Christian. Be a happy person. Jesus actually was the laughing Jesus. Why were children attracted to him? He was a happy person.
Yes.
And he blessed the children.
Easy to come to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. Hey, that's true. That's what we got to be like. People are attracted to that. I think in closing, I think one of the things for me is at the very end of that chapter 15, the very last verse, the Father says, it was right that we should make merry and be glad. So I really like that. That's really kind of something in my heart. He says, it's right that we should be, make merry and be glad. For this son was lost and now he's found, he's dead and he's alive. So, I just want to leave that with you as we close.
Probably the emphasis on that is, it was right that we should make merry and be glad. It was right that we should celebrate. As Christians, it's right that we should actually be happy. The happiest, Demis Shakarian wrote that book, The Happiest People on Earth, way back in, might have been the late 70s, early 80s, but the happiest people on earth. We ought to be, we should be.
Yeah.
And so the Father said it was right. If you're trying to work it all out, why, should you be happy that this scoundrel came home? Yep. It was right that we should make merry and we should be glad. And there was eating, like good food. There was
he's
drink.
Telling the older brother.
And the older brother?
Because he says, he's telling him, your brother. He tells him, he's telling the older brother. So it is right.
Yeah. So praise God. Exciting times to be alive in. Where it's challenging at the same time. But I want to tell you that we are absolutely excited about this season and where this is going to take the church and the body of Christ. We believe it's the most momentous days in the history of the world. It's not about a day of going backwards, it's a day of going forwards. And I think as people begin to understand the nature and the character of God, it's just going to get better and better and better. So I want you to be encouraged. Look up, smile, laugh, give someone a really big smile and give them a big hug and kiss them on the neck like the Father did with the prodigal as he came home. So love you and bless you.
God bless you.
And thank you again.
See you all soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on our Royals YouTube channel. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And if this has blessed you in any way, make sure you share it with your friends and family. And thank you for joining us on another glorious gathering, and we'll see you soon.